So I'll begin the recording, and hopefully I'll have this uploaded by late tomorrow, roughly 24 hours from now is usually what I'm able to do. So why don't we begin with, we'll do this triple bell again, just like we did last time. And we just, as a reminder, we begin with a turning of the senses inward and becoming aware of kind of what we're bringing to our meditation practice. So sometimes we're bringing a little bit of agitation or worry, or maybe something we're excited for and we're hoping it's going to happen. And so sometimes we're bringing some things with us. Sometimes those things are positive. Sometimes those things can be maybe kind of difficult. So it's a nice opportunity to become aware of those things. And just say for the next hour and a half that it's okay to put those things down. Put them down metaphorically, but let go of them and just use the opportunity to kind of rebuild and restore yourself from the inside out. So it's just a very wonderful opportunity to do that. And then, as we did last week, we'll begin with just some well wishes that kind of get us into a state of feeling compassionate and kind and happy. So I'll begin by saying, may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And so when you hear that, as I say that, you can just kind of let your heart feel that in agreement, that it would be a wonderful thing if we could just make all beings free from suffering. And the next is, may all beings be surrounded by love and kindness. And may all beings be joyful and happy. And finally, may all beings be equanimous. May they be free and peaceful. And with that, I'll sound this bell. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Namaskar, everybody. Welcome back. So that opening, when I say Namaskar, and I usually conclude with Namaskar after our class, I just wanted to share what that means. Some of you may be familiar with it, but this is, Namaskar is a Sanskrit word or a Pali word. It means, I honor the place in you where the entire universe resides. I honor the place of love, of light, of truth, of peace. I honor the place within you where if you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, there is only one of us. So that's the meaning of that, Namaskar, in the context of this. So welcome back. And one thing you may have noticed when we just did that simple little exercise with the triple ringing of the bell is that, just that simple thing, you really do change the way you feel. It's not that difficult to just voluntarily say, yeah, I'm gonna try and let go of some of the agitation and the anxiety that I carry around with me, and then I'm going to cultivate these positive states. So it's just kind of neat to take notice of the fact that you can do that, and it's really possible. It's it doesn't require years of meditation practice, but it's something you can really begin to access right away. So what I'd like to do tonight is start out with a little review of the basic meditation practice, and then we'll do that together. And then after that, we're going to get into satipatthana, which is mindfulness practices, and we'll do a few things with that. So, so to begin with, last week we talked about establishing a meditation practice that we can do in our homes or wherever we are, something that we can devote time to every day and really start to establish this practice. And as we do this, our level of concentration gets stronger and stronger, and our ability to let go of tension and stressors in the body, that increases. So this sense of peacefulness starts to build over time. And it doesn't take very long, maybe 20 minutes a day, to really change things. According to the research studies, as I shared, blood pressure going down, levels of inflammation, the stress hormone cortisol going down in people, the parts of the brain that are lighting up more around positive energy, positive thoughts and states of consciousness, those are increasing in meditators. And then the parts that are, I'm going to grab that. Hello there. How are you? Good, no problem. Yeah, good timing. We're just kind of talking about reviewing last week. Reviewing the practice from last week, and we're just beginning that, so your timing is actually quite good. So again, just about 20 minutes a day, and it doesn't take long of that repeated practice before you start to get those benefits in your mind and body of meditation. And I think I mentioned last week that I have a book, but this one here, the orange one, and they're over there, I go into some detail on the research study and some of the medical findings with regard to meditation practice. But so what we established last week was two practices that we are actually going to link together tonight. So the first was samatha, the calm abiding practice, where we do the body scan. We kind of move through the body. In that one, we're focusing the mind on the sensations within the framework of the body. We are starting to quiet the mind a bit and just notice what's going on in the body, finding that tension, letting that go, noticing places where tension seems to come back kind of habitually, and then noticing that things like that, for most of us, when you have a stressful experience, the body tenses up. And you're thinking about that stressful experience for a while, and then maybe the mind kind of moves on to something else. You're busy with some other thing, but the tension seems to stay in the body. And so it's very much like an echo. It's just kind of, it's reverberating whatever that stressful situation was, or the thing that made you mad, or the thing that made you worried. So it kind of echoes that over and over. So by systematically moving through the body, really getting in touch with the natural sensations of the body, not overthinking it or intellectualizing it, but just really feeling it and just moving through, letting go of that tension unconditionally over and over, as many times as it takes, we start to set ourselves free, and we start to change our habit pattern of holding that tension. So you'll start to notice that as you do the practice. And then the second practice that we did last week was the anapanasati, which is, it means awareness of respiration or breathing meditation. So with that, one of the things we do is focus the mind down to a smaller area. And in doing that, we're able to concentrate more greatly, we're able to quiet the mind even more. So bringing the awareness to the triangular area of the nose and just noticing breath going in, breath going out, expanding the awareness to kind of the sensations and the touch of the breath, letting that be the focus of consciousness, just letting that really fill your consciousness, letting that be the thing you pay attention to. And following that, then we notice the distractions that arise, sounds, sometimes a little ache or a pain in the body or an itch, tickle. We notice how that distracts the mind away from the focus on the breath, and that really all we have to do in response to that is return to the breath. And those distractions just take care of themselves. So this isn't like trying to out-muscle your mind and win. It's just more of a, come on back. Jack Kornfield, he's a wonderful meditation teacher. He talks about it like training a puppy. You know, if you're trying to train a puppy to come and to sit and to stay, of course the puppy's going to get up and wander away, you know. And so what do? You come up and pick up the puppy gently, you know, lovingly, put the puppy down, stay. This puppy stays for a moment, and then puppy wanders off. And you just do that over and over, you know. So you're doing that with your own mind. Thoughts are normal, you know. Distractions, you notice them. Sometimes you just find yourself kind of daydreaming. But whenever that time is that you notice, oh, mind has wandered, that's the moment of awakening. That's the important moment, because that's the moment you get to come back. So then you just return the awareness to the nose, and you start again. So it's really, you know, it's simple, but there's a lot of compassion and gentleness. There's no, there's no need to overpower or anything like that. This is about letting it happen. So in terms of posture, you are trying a cushion under your sit bones tonight, and hopefully that feels pretty good already. Also, the little cushion under the knees is sometimes very helpful.
This is my bad knee, so it's...
Yeah, and it keeps it from, you know, kind of, I don't know, opening up more, you know, so that's great. So that's, you know, for me, that's the ideal meditation posture, and so I recommend people try that if they're able to, but of course, sitting on a chair, sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall, you know, whatever is comfortable for you is the way to do it. And of course, laying down is fine too, but the only drawback to laying down is that it's kind of easy to doze off, and then you miss out on the benefit of the practice. So finding that comfortable posture for the body, something that is balanced, and finding a place to put your hands, whether it's on your knees, just folded gently in your lap, whatever works for you. We allow the eyes to close softly. And again, the reason for that is just so we're not looking at a whole bunch of stuff, which makes us think about a whole bunch of stuff. So closing the eyes is just helpful, right? So what we'll do now is I'm going to sound the meditation bell, and I'm going to guide everybody through the practice. And so what we're going to do tonight is combine the body scan practice and the breathing meditation practice together. So all of this will be familiar to you from last week, but we're just going to join them together, and so we'll do this. And again, feel free to move if you're sitting for a while and you start to feel uncomfortable. Feel free to move. It's okay. You don't have to stay put. Please, yeah, absolutely. You betcha. Okay. So as you get comfortable, one of the things that's helpful, again, is just look for some symmetry in the body. And by symmetry, you know, both sides don't have to be mirroring each other 100%. But you just don't want to have like all your weight bearing on one side of your body versus the other, or, you know, one leg kind of supporting you and the other not. If you can get it all kind of 50-50 throughout the body, that's real helpful. Helps you to sit in comfort longer. And as far as your breath goes, there's no need to do anything with it. Just let it come and go as it wants to. And after we get through the body scan, we'll work with the breath a little bit. Just observe it. So what I'm going to do then is sound the bell. Just invite you to follow that. And when it goes silent, I'll begin to guide us through the practice. the sound of the bell into silence. And let the silence be an invitation to turn your senses inward. And this is really letting go of one of the habits of the mind, which again is to be projected outward into the world around us, to be interested and curious. And that's a perfectly useful habit of the mind, but for the purposes of meditation, we'll let go of that and just focus the senses inward. Take a moment to become aware of what it feels like to just be sitting or laying in your body, however you're sitting here today. Just become aware of that feeling of presence, of being here. Take a moment to be with that and to establish an awareness of presence. And having established that awareness, let's bring the awareness up to the top of the head into the area of the scalp. And for a few moments, we'll focus awareness on the area of the scalp and become aware of any physical sensations. So these physical sensations that we might encounter, nothing too unusual. We're looking for temperature sensations. Sometimes it will feel warm or cool to us from the scalp. We'll experience that. You might feel air movement on the scalp, if there's a little bit of movement of the atmosphere in the room. You might feel a sensation on the surface of the skin of the scalp, maybe a little tickle or an itch, or sometimes there's a feeling of pulsation. So you're just opening up awareness to whatever is currently happening in the scalp, the sensations. And as you observe them, you don't need to think about them. Just let yourself experience them. Watch as they come and go. Most of our sensations are very temporary. They arise and they pass away. And as you're observing the scalp, take a look to see if there's any tension anywhere in the scalp. And if there is, you can just release that. Just let the tension go. Unconditional release. Allow the tension to leave, and then just stay with the sensations. Keep observing. And then from the scalp, we'll move the awareness downward and see if you can really feel the movement of awareness as it flows down into the forehead. Feel it as it moves through the temples, through the eyebrows and eyes. And bring your awareness to these areas. Awareness of sensation, whatever you feel. Temperature, air movement, sensations on the surface of the skin. And if there's tension in any of the areas, once again, just let that go. Very softly. You can smile to it as it leaves the body. Just observe. If the brow is furrowed, let that soften. Let the temples soften. Sometimes the eyebrows are raised a little bit. Just let them relax. Sometimes the eyes are squinted. Allow them to be soft and relaxed. And then from the temples, feel the movement of awareness as it moves downward into the ears. And then from the ears, observe as it moves forward through the cheekbones and into the face. And just follow that movement of awareness, noticing the sensations that are illuminated by that awareness as it moves through. And also noticing any tension as you move through, letting that tension go. So you might check in with the jaws, see if they're tight. Check in with the lips. Sometimes the lips are pursed. Teeth might be clenched. Sometimes just muscles in the face are tight. Noticing any of that, release. Let the tension go and continue to observe the sensations. There's no sensation that you're supposed to be feeling or not supposed to be feeling. It's just whatever's there for you in this moment. Whatever you feel. And then from the face, let's observe the awareness moving down into the neck, through the throat, and through the sides of the neck and the back of the neck. Again, see if you can really feel that movement of awareness. And notice the sensations in these different parts of the neck. Let the tension go. Continue observing. It's not just about letting the tension go, but it's about a continuity of awareness. So maintain that awareness and let it flow down and outward from the neck into the shoulders. Observe the sensations there. Now in the shoulders you might notice the sensation of contact. If you're leaning against a chair or some surface, you might feel that in your shoulders. So that's a contact sensation. You might notice the feeling of contact between your skin and your clothing. With a little bit of movement, you might notice that contact. So let these sensations really fill your consciousness. And let the tension go. Let your shoulders drop if they're shrugged. And then let the awareness move downward from the shoulders into the upper arms. And as you bring that awareness down, just move through the biceps and then inward, the inside part of the arm, all the way from the underarm down to the elbow joint, and then to the back of the arm, and the outside. And you're observing sensations, just letting the tension go. It starts to become just kind of a seamless process now. Just moving awareness, observing and releasing, observing and releasing. Feel the awareness flowing down through the elbow joints. Observe as it moves down through the forearms. It passes down through the wrists. Observing and releasing. Feel as the awareness moves down into the hands. You can focus on the different parts, the heels of the hands, and the palms. Moving awareness to the tops of the hands, the thumbs and fingers, and then finally coming to rest in the fingernails. Take a moment to focus on the fingernails and see if you notice any very subtle sensations there. Sometimes there's just a little energy feeling, kind of indescribable, just a feeling of pulsation in the fingernails. From here, keep your awareness focused. We'll bring the awareness up to the top of the chest. Kind of spread it along the collarbones and then begin to move down through the chest. Observing sensations. Let that awareness drift down, all the way down to the base of the sternum. And then outward through the rib cage. Observing, releasing. Just being aware of the sensations as they are. Bring awareness to the underarms. Feel it as it moves down through the sides of the body, Feel it going down to the waist. And then from the waist, bring the awareness forward into the belly. Begin to observe the sensations in the belly. You might notice as it rises and falls, there's a feeling of expansion and contraction, feeling of contact between your skin and your clothing perhaps. Let the tension in the belly go. Just let it be free and relaxed. Stay with the sensations. And we'll maintain the continuity of awareness. Bring the awareness around to the top of the back, starting at the base of the neck and letting it move down through the shoulder blades, through the upper third of the back. Just observing those sensations, not getting too caught up in analysis about them, just feeling them, releasing. Feel the flow down through the middle third of the back. And feel that flow of awareness down into the lower part of the back. If you encounter any sensations that are perhaps unpleasant, it's common. Maybe there's a little fatigue, a little soreness. Sometimes we encounter these places where there's pain or discomfort, and it's hard to move the awareness through because we kind of get hung up. So this is a wonderful opportunity to expand the awareness and do just the opposite. Allow extra space around difficult physical sensations. Just let the awareness hold the difficult sensations along with the neutral ones and the pleasant ones. Allow as much space as is necessary. And don't resist sensations, just let them be. Observe. Release tension. And then from the lower back, let the awareness flow down into the sit bones. Feel it moving through the hips and throughout the pelvis. Noticing the sensations. You might notice the feeling of bearing weight on the sit bones, the feeling of compression. Let tension go. Observe as the awareness moves down into the thighs. And you just want to move through the different parts of the thighs, the tops, and the outsides, and the underside, and the inside. Just paying attention to the sensations and letting the muscles relax. Feel the flow of awareness passing down through the knee joints now. And again, like the back, if you're moving through the knees and there's discomfort, let go of any resistance to pain or to the ideas around discomfort. Just allow space. Just allow the infinite space of your awareness to hold those sensations without reacting. Feel as the awareness moves down into the calves, into the shins, all the sensations, releasing the tension. Feel the awareness moving down through the ankles now. Feel it as it begins to move into the feet, illuminating the heels with awareness, how they feel, then the soles of the feet, and the balls of the feet. Notice that each of these areas, little different sensation in each part. Observe the tops of the feet, And feel as awareness moves down to the toes. And then finally bring the awareness to rest in the toenails. And just hang out for a while observing. See if you notice anything there. Even the slightest sensation, just observe. Let any tension go from the feet. And then now from the feet we'll bring the awareness once again up to the top of the head. Return to the scalp. And just touch base with the scalp again, the sensations. And then at your own pace this time, you can just start to guide your awareness back down through your body. Move through the head and face, down through the neck and shoulders. But you find in just a very brief moment, as awareness passes through the different parts of the body, that you can become aware of the sensations and notice and release tension. Continue observing and just feel the awareness flow from part to part. And just let that simple process continue, moving awareness through the body from part to part. And notice those places where tension may have returned. Some of these places you'll begin to discover they're sort of habitual hangouts for tension in the body. Maybe the jaws, maybe the shoulders are tight, shrugged, or the belly. Release that tension anywhere you find it, over and over. And again, just knowing that sometimes the experiences of the day, they end up embedding themselves in the body as tension, echoing, replaying the stress or the worries. Just let that go unconditionally over and over. Now we'll bring the awareness up to the base of the nose. We'll focus on that little patch of skin there beneath the nostrils and above the upper lip. Bring the awareness there. Expand it just a little bit further into the rings of the nostrils. And then expand a little further into the nasal passages. So now within this triangular area of the nose, just let your awareness be focused completely here and become aware of the movement of the breath as it goes in and out through the nose. Just be aware of it. Breathing in, just be aware that you're breathing in. And breathing out, just be aware that you're breathing out. The movement of respiration. And try to stay with the full duration of the breath. The beginning of the breath, stay with it. As it slows, it pauses, then it reverses direction, it becomes the next out-breath or the next in-breath. Just stay with that movement, the full duration. You might notice how some in-breaths are a bit longer, some are a bit shorter. We're not manipulating the breath, not regulating it, just letting it come and go and observing what it does. As you observe the movement of the breath, you can open up to the feeling of touch anywhere within the triangular area of the nose. So somewhere as the breath moves through, you might notice that feeling of touch. And observing that feeling of touch, you may be able to open the awareness a bit further and start to notice some of the subtleties, some of the sensations of the breath. Breathing in, There's a quality of dryness to the air, whereas breathing out, there's a little more moisture in the breath. Breathing in, the air is just a bit cooler. Breathing in, the air is a bit more warm. Just let this movement and touch and sensations of breath completely fill your consciousness. Remain focused. And as is often the case, distractions come up. You'll hear a sound and the mind will follow the sound. Just guide the mind back to the nose. Return it back to the triangular area of the nose. Just use that puppy image if it's helpful. Come on back. Stay. Observe the movement of the breath, the touch, the sensations. And sometimes the sensation in the body might come up and pull the awareness. If you notice that, just return the awareness to the breath. You find that sensations come and go all the time in the body, and there's no need to react to all of them. Just return to the breath. Let the mind rest in this peaceful awareness of the breath. If you notice that you're daydreaming or remembering, planning, sometimes the mind likes to wander in thought. If you notice that, again, it's just the moment of awakening. Bring the awareness back. Let go of thoughts. Let go of sounds. Let go of sensations. Just stay with the movement of the breath, the touch of the breath, and the sensations of the breath. Staying within the triangular area of the nose and just going back over and over as often as you need to. Let's just share a few minutes of silent meditation together. Remain present at the nose. Stay focused on the breath. In just a few minutes, I'll sound the bell to end the meditation. The motion detectors have closed off the lights for us. We're so still. back. Just take a minute, no hurry. Bring the awareness back to the room. Open your eyes whenever you're ready, or keep them closed. So that was kind of neat. We were so still that the lights went off. I think that would have startled somebody if they'd have walked in and just the lights would have came on and seen us all sitting here. But that's wonderful. I mean, it's quite possible that you feel a difference just from last week to this week in, in just kind of having an awareness of what the practice is like and then doing it again. It starts to become more comfortable. There's really no surprises to it. We do the same practice over and over. This is still the one I do, after all the years I've been meditating. This is still my go-to daily basic practice. And about the only thing, I shared this in the beginning, but the only thing that's different is that for me, I tend to spend a little less time on the body scan because I've been doing it so often, so I'm kind of really, in touch with that. And so anytime I don't put into the body scan, I put into the breathing meditation. So that first phase might get a little shorter for me, but then I just put it into the breathing part, and that gets longer. So I'll do for sure, a 20-minute sit, but usually more like 30 minutes. And I find that that's great. But in terms of getting benefit from your practice, 20 minutes. If you can do 20 minutes a day, you'll really be getting it. And if you can only do 5, you'll still be getting, a lot of benefit. I mean, you'll start to notice that too. You can sit in your car behind the steering wheel. Maybe you pull up to, you're going to go into a meeting or an appointment or something like that. And there's just, kind of the normal agitation of the body and mind as you're hurrying to get somewhere. And you find you can just pause for a moment in the car and just become aware of your body with a few in-breaths and a few out-breaths, and let that tension go, and then just focus on the breath alone for maybe just 10 breaths or something. And even that can be incredibly helpful, very refreshing. And I try to do that a lot before meetings and things, just so I can kind of, settle. So you'll start to find that you can use this practice in lots of different ways and just start to become intuitive. The other thing that's important to point out is that we're not demanding that the mind be quiet, because that usually doesn't work too well. We are noticing the habit of the mind to wander. That's what it's been doing since we were born. We become aware of sounds, right? It's a habit. We become aware of strong sensations in the body, things like that, or we just daydream. So part of this practice is bringing the awareness back over and over. That really does start to train the mind to stay put longer and longer. And it'll be different times, but you'll notice over time the trend is toward longer and longer periods of the mind just resting, watching the breath. And then you'll also start to notice more and more, if it does move, you might catch that sooner. Sometimes you'll be daydreaming for 5 minutes and then realize, oh wow, and you'll bring it back. But you'll start to become aware of those distractions a little more easily. Becomes a little easier to just come back, let go, focus on the breath. Don't worry about stopping thoughts. Just give the mind something to focus on. And that is the breath. And the beauty of that is that's something you just always have, So the breath, this breathing meditation, it's different from, you can't, if you're waiting in the dentist's office lobby and you're a little nervous about getting your teeth done, you can't really start doing ohms in the dentist's office waiting room. You could, but you might not feel comfortable. Or it might be a little challenging to focus on an image, of maybe a cherished deity or something like that. But what we always do have, because it's just a real thing, is the breath. We just always have it. There it is. So we have this perfect object of meditation, available, ready, accessible at all times. So it's just kind of that universal thing that we work with in mindfulness-based meditation. Any questions or comments or anything on kind of this basic practice stuff we talked about? Feel free if at any point, if a question comes to mind, because I like to talk about that stuff. But what I want to do then is we'll move into tonight's topic, which is satipatthana, and so that's the pronunciation of the word on under part 2 there on the handout. Satipatthana, and that's a Pali term. It means establishment of mindfulness or establishment of awareness. And there's a sutta called the Satipatthana Sutta that spells out in wonderful detail what the establishments of mindfulness are, what to focus on, and how to do that for helping your meditation practice. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll do a practice together. You may have heard in conjunction with meditation and mindfulness the idea of present moment awareness. And the sati in satipatthana, that word sati means awareness. It also, there's a, kind of one of the connotations of that word is also to remember. So you see that both of those are kind of appropriate with what we've been doing. Sometimes we just have to remember, oh yeah, go back to the breath. Or we remember, oh, the mind's wandering, I'll go back. So there is that memory aspect to it, and then there's this awareness. So that word sati, it means awareness, it means mindfulness. Those two terms are pretty much interchangeable in meditation. But one of the things we notice, if you just kind of take a look at your own mind and the way you tend to think and so forth, is that the mind tends to be either in the past or in the future most of the time. We think about past events, sometimes kind of fondly, recalling things that were pleasant or, lovely or pleasurable. A lot of times we think about things that, kind of bothered us or hurt us or, made us feel guilty or bad or angry, So when the mind wanders into the past, a lot of times it's bringing stuff into the present moment that isn't so helpful. There's nothing wrong with bringing lessons you've learned in the past into the present moment. But if you really objectively observe your mind and what it does, we tend to kind of dredge up a lot of difficult, yucky stuff, and we bring it here now, We kind of make ourselves relitigate all that stuff. The other place the mind likes to go is the future. And if the mind is in the future, sometimes that's in, constructive planning and preparation, sometimes, but most of the time it's sort of like the stuff in the past. You may be thinking about things that are a little disturbing, a little worrisome, people that you love being ill, or your own, own health issues, or things you're worried about might happen, or things that are stressful. And so when the mind is wandering into the future, again, just sort of bringing difficult stuff here into the present. And the amazing thing about mindfulness and meditation, mindfulness in general, is that we become aware that the present moment is where life is happening, and that when we bring the stuff from the past into the present, it seems like kind of a a poor imitation of real life. You know, it's just, it's not real. The past is, you know, it's over. It is what it is. It's a memory. And the future, it's not real either. I mean, most likely we'll have a future. Probably isn't going to be anything like we imagine. You know, it really hasn't been yet. So there's a lot of this wasted mental, you know, past and future. So mindfulness says, come on into the present moment, let go of the past, let go of the future, and become aware of what's just happening here and now. So whether that's the sensations of the body in the body scan, or the breath in the breathing meditation, or as we get into some specific mindfulness practice, you know, whatever we're doing in the present moment. So those 4 establishments of mindfulness, they're reminding us to be present in the body, and we can kind of become aware of the body in an objective way, you know, what it's doing. You're sitting, or you're laying, or you're walking, or you're washing dishes, or whatever it is. You know, you can become aware. My body's moving, it's doing this. As the body is moving, there are sensations in the body, often as a result of that moving. So you can become aware of the sensations. This is, I'll kind of guide you to where I'm at with this. This is on page 6 of the handout. These 4 bases of mindfulness, or these establishments of mindfulness. So mindfulness of the body, its position, its movements. I'm reading from the booklet now. Mindfulness of the body is the body, its position, its movements, and what it's doing, whether in motion or rest, active or inactive. So it's just an awareness of it. There is mindfulness of the sensations. They are the result of anything experienced through the 5 senses: smell, sight, sound, taste, touch. So using the 5 physical senses is a great way to ground yourself in the present moment. So let go of the thoughts about the past and the future, and kind of go through your different 5 senses. What do you feel right now? You know, as you're sitting, you can become aware of, well, I feel my feet making contact with the cushions, and I feel my sit bones, and I feel kind of bearing weight, and I can feel, you know, my shirt making contact with my skin. I can feel the holding of the paper in my left hand, and I can kind of feel like a sensation of just ever so slight perspiration on the palm of my right hand, and kind of feeling that evaporating in the atmosphere of the room. So you know, you can kind of move through your different senses and just be aware of what are you feeling in the present moment. And this has a real grounding effect. It just kind of draws it all in. So being aware of, you know, what am I seeing? You know, shapes, colors. Try not to evaluate it too much, just more notice it. The sounds that are making contact with your ears. Tastes, if there's any tastes, or touch. Smells, sometimes there are. So these are ways to gather the mindfulness. The next one is mindfulness of the mind. Kind of like awareness of the body. You can be aware, you know, body's moving, it's sitting, it's resting, it's, you know, I'm walking, whatever you're doing. You can be aware of the mind in the same way. What's my mind doing? Oh, I'm thinking, I'm remembering. There's that past thing where I'm thinking about that thing that happened over and over, and there's that future thing. I'm imagining what this might be like, and what I'll say, and what they'll say, and you know, you notice that. Oh, my mind's in the past or the future. Try to bring it here. Be aware of what the mind's doing. And then mindfulness of mental contents. Beyond the basic activity, what's the content? So just as sensations are to the body, so like if you are moving your hand over a surface, there's the movement, and then the sensation is that contact. When the mind is thinking, there's kind of a sensation that comes from that. So notice what the sensation in the mind, you could call that an emotion. So when I think about the hurtful thing that happened to me before, I feel that feeling of sadness or, grief or just kind of a little suffering here. When I think of the scary stuff that might happen someday, same thing. So you're aware of the contents of the mind in that sort of sense. So these are just ways to kind of bring the awareness to the to the framework of the body and the mind. And then there's a few qualities to awareness. So if you're using those 4 bases of mindfulness, there's some qualities to the awareness. Observe objectively. So if you're observing your mind going to the past and remembering a difficult memory that's kind of making you feel sad now, observe that objectively. Don't beat yourself up for it. Don't say, oh, there you go again. You shouldn't be thinking that way. No judgment. No judgment. Just observe. What is the mind doing? And you'll find by observing objectively whatever's going on around you that you can really see it fully, but as soon as you're rejecting something, you're kind of limiting the scope because you're looking at it in terms of rejection or in terms of I shouldn't be thinking that way, so try to come at this with an objective awareness. Let me just see what's going on in the experience. Let me notice this objectively. You could say kind of like a doctor, let's say you had a painful wound on your body and you're in a lot of pain, so you go to your doctor, and you're scared about this and you're worried about this injury or whatever this illness is, and you're very personally invested in it, right? Because it's scary, it's painful. And so you go into your doctor and your doctor will observe objectively, right? She's not going to freak out too. That wouldn't be a very good doctor because then it's like, I'm not going to get good advice or good help. What you want is your doctor to be objective. So what's going on? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? Based on that, your doctor can give you some, rational advice. So you could think of it in terms of that for the objectivity piece. And then attentively, really pay attention. I talk a little bit in the handout about controlled processes versus automatic processes. Part of mindfulness practice is to get away from automatic process and go to controlled process. So an example of that would be if you get up, let's just say you're in your home and you're sitting at, kitchen table or whatever, and you think, oh, I'm going to go grab my phone, right? You get up and you're just kind of there at your phone. You walk through your house, but there's not like an awareness of the walking because it's an automatic process. If you've done that so many times, it doesn't really require a lot of thought. And then there's what we call controlled processes. So if something required a little more thought or a little more awareness as you were doing it, a little more skill, then the mind becomes fairly concentrated on it. So you can think about this, bringing the mindset of controlled awareness or controlled experience to what are normally automatic experiences. So automatic processes versus, and I just want to see where I talk about that so where you can reference that. Yeah, so page 3, I get into that. Mental processes, normal consciousness, and then kind of talk about that in some detail until we get to the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So you might find that helpful. So attentive, really pay attention, do it continuously. I think I mentioned last week, one of our habits is we don't usually touch base with the way the body feels unless there's a problem. And so more and more often our experience of the body is associated with, it's kind of like the kid who acts up in class. That's the one you're aware of, and if the only time you pay attention to that kid is when he's acting up, your experience of him is, this kid's acting up. It's kind of like the body. If you're only touching base with it when you feel lousy or when you feel really, sick or painful, then your experience of the body is that. But what you find is that if you have a continuous awareness of what you're doing within the framework of the mind and body, that you become aware that there's a whole lot more to it, and that your experience isn't maybe as painful as you might think or as troublesome as you might think. There's a lot happening in the body and the mind all the time. After that, I get into a few different simple mindfulness practices. Washing hands is a great one because most of us do that, a few times a day for whatever reason, and it takes about, 30 seconds or something to wash your hands. So if you can remember to use that as a mindfulness practice, what you want to do is notice the normal habit when you're washing your hands is what? Think about what you're going to do when you're not washing your hands, the next thing. You never think about washing your hands. So you can bring your awareness to the process of washing your hands. The sounds, the smells. There's usually no taste involved in washing the hands, but sometimes if you have a really fragrant soap, that might kind of be a little sort of almost a feeling of taste. But there's sight, there's sound, there's touch, there's smell. There's a lot going on in the experience of washing your hands. Sounds of the water, splashing in the sink, going down the drain, coming out of the faucet. The feelings of soap on your hands. The smells as you start to move them around. The temperatures of the water. All these sensations that we've already been looking at, but really bringing your attentive awareness to that. So you can use hand washing as just a little mini mindfulness practice during the day. And you can do it with other things too. Cup of coffee. Walking. You can do mindful walking. And there's a few things that I share in here, the cup of coffee and so forth. What I want to do tonight is take a little time to do a mindfulness practice together. But I guess, does this sort of make sense so far? Does it kind of resonate a little bit? You sort of getting, it's not a real complicated thing. In fact, it's so simple and so subtle that sometimes we overlook it. It's like, sometimes we think stuff that's worthwhile has to be hard to achieve. But the beauty of this is that it's actually just quite available to us. And so it's just kind of a noticing that, oh, here's this thing that's just always been available. My experience of the present moment without past or future mixed into it. So let me bring my awareness into my five senses. And typically what we'll do is kind of treat the mind as kind of like we do in breathing meditation, where if the mind is wandering off to stuff that isn't what you're doing, then just bring it back to what you're doing. And a helpful way to do that is to go through the five senses and say, okay, what is my experience of sight? What's my experience of sound, of taste, of smell, of touch? So that's a real good way to kind of unify the mind back into what you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. I'm going to disconnect from the tape or from the recorder for a minute, and then I'll put it back in. So what we're going to do is a mindfulness practice together, a mindfulness exercise that I have shared with many people. And it's such a basic thing, but it'll give you a wonderful feel for what I'm talking about. So what we're going to do is we're just going to share. We're going to each take an orange, and we're going to do a mindfulness practice with an orange. So what I'm going to ask you to do, there's some paper towels if you want to take a couple of those. And maybe pass them. Thank you so much. Take a little bowl. What we'll do with the, we can put all of our peels and things in the bowl when we're done, and then I'll dispose of them in the hallway so that the choir room doesn't smell like oranges tomorrow, and they kind of wonder what's going on. And as we do this practice, we're not going to do anything weird. We're just going to, so don't worry that there's some trick. So please take an orange and please.
I was hoping it would be water.
Maybe next time. But if you learn how to do it with an orange, you can do it with just about anything. Yes. And closer. Okay. And I am not going to actually peel or eat my orange. I'm just going to, demonstrate. But let's see. So does everybody have a bowl? And everybody has paper towel, and we can pass these out again too. And then I have some, after we do with the orange, I have some wet wipes too, so that if your hands are sticky, you can clean
Not them at all.
Yeah. Well, I've done this a few times, but we don't want to use these till the end because they smell like wet wipes, and so we want to experience the orange as part of our meditation. But now, for most of us, I imagine, realistically, we've probably all eaten, hundreds of oranges in our lives, right? Or probably a lot of oranges anyway. And by now, if you had an orange in your hand for this long, you'd have probably already been well on your way to eating it, And so that's an example, again, of these automatic processes where we're doing things, but we're really not experiencing them. And the interesting thing about that is sometimes we get this feeling like life isn't as vital and real as we'd like it to be, or authentic, and that we're kind of like, where's the real experience here? And it's because we've really gotten so accustomed to just tuning out whatever's really happening, and we kind of live in this place in our mind where we're in past or future and just kind of imagined existence. So this is what is for most of us an automatic process. You're eating your orange, eat it in about 30 seconds, throwing it down, you're thinking about something else, and then the orange is over and you're not experiencing it. The beautiful thing about this practice is that we'll get this experience of mindfulness, but this translates to everything. And one of the things I encourage people to do is do this with an orange, and then start to do this with other living people or animals. I'm going to hook this up again. Glad I remembered before I went too long. So I'm an animal lover, and I have a dog, and she's, I love my dog. And so when I'm touching my dog or loving up my dog, I feel, what her fur feels like. What does that feel like? What is the warmth of her body? I always take her head and, I always tell her that her head was built perfectly so that my chin would rest between her eyes on her nose, and then I can kiss her forehead. But so I smell my dog, and I feel my dog, and I touch my dog. And so it's like a mindfulness practice, and so when I do that, it's like I really feel restored. It's like, wow, this is great. So it's not just there's my dog. It's like, wow, here's my dog, so it's wonderful. And so I really feel like those moments I spend with her are wonderful. And I try and do that with other people, Sometimes somebody touches you and you don't even really register it, right? And you're thinking about other things. But if somebody touches me, I really try to notice that, try to feel it. If I see something, I really try to see it. Now again, I've been doing this practice for a while, but you can start to do this, quite easily. So we'll get into this a little, because we only have about 15 minutes left, and that's plenty for this, but so we'll get into this a little bit. But now just kind of, take your orange in your hands, and this is kind of where it starts. We're going to, we're going to peel and eat the orange. But again, most of the time, we would never notice that when we're holding the orange, that it's got a temperature to it. And we kind of feel that in our hands, whether it's our palms or our fingers. And, the orange feels a little cooler than our skin does. And so there's a feeling of temperature. And that, that should sound familiar, because those are the sensations that we kind of are always looking at, the body scan and the other practices. So there's this feeling of temperature. There's this feeling of touch or contact. You know, as you rub the orange, there's bumps and dimples and ridges and things like that. You might notice as you're kind of moving it in your hands that there's a sound. And just the sound of your skin, you know, your hands touching the orange. It's got a sound. It's got a sight. You can see it, the orange color, the little brown speckles, the little color of the navel part, and then the stem part. So there's this visual component. So we've got these touch components, sight components, sound. There might be a little bit of smell, something, a little bit of smell on the orange. There's a feeling of it's kind of got a certain weight to it. You know, there's some substance here. So really what we're doing is just our five senses. You know, what do we notice? What do we notice? And it's just taking a moment to allow that to be important. Allow that to be important. So that's kind of that attentive factor. This is your life, right? And so you might even think and just kind of think it's silly, but right? This is it. What if this was the last orange on the planet and you had it? You wouldn't just, throw it down in 30 seconds and think nothing of it. If you knew this was the last one, you would really make it a big deal. And so, I kind of talk about, hopefully we will all eat hundreds more oranges, but what if this is the last one for us? So, kind of come to it with that consciousness that this is important enough. Your life in the present moment as it's unfolding is important enough to pay attention to. And when you start to do that, there's a real feeling of peacefulness and presence because you're not looking for something that isn't here. And you're finally noticing what is. So now, if you want to just start to peel your orange a little bit and have the experience of peeling the orange. So however you want to do that. I usually just take a big bite off the top and then I can peel it. My sisters would always use like a spoon and they would kind of do that, but I was always a bite and peel kind of a guy. Some people will not peel their oranges, they will slice them. But anyway, for now we're peeling the orange. But once again, now there's new sensations coming. There is a sound to ripping that peel off. Mm-hmm. And there's sometimes that little kind of spray of zest, as it kind of shoots out.
Into your eye.
Into your eye, yes.
That always happens to me with grapefruit.
Yes.
Almost invariably, I get it right in the eye.
Yeah, grapefruit have an unbelievable ability to do that just about every time. Yeah. But as you peel, there's a sound, and the smell starts to increase. And the peeling itself, there's kind of a little bit of maybe a stickiness on the fingers or that little feeling of oiliness, right? The smell, the touch, the sound. The juice. And we haven't started eating them yet. But now there might even be, you might notice, there's a little bit of salivation, your mouth is watering a little bit, you're kind of anticipating. Yeah, so there's that aspect of it. Now if you want to just kind of tear it into some sections, maybe put one section in your mouth and just spend a little time noticing that. As you put it in your mouth, there's a texture that you become aware of with your tongue. And there's as you start to chew it a little bit, the juice comes out of all those little tiny juice packets that are in there, and you begin to taste it. starts to kind of, as you swallow, it starts to go down the throat. You feel that moving. There's the flavor. So you've got the, the sight if your eyes are open. You've got the sound of chewing, of swallowing. You've got the smells of the orange, the taste, sweet, sour. There's the touch, stickiness, the juice, just the sensations of the experience. Of an experience that for most of us would have been long over by now. But noticing this, this is, again, and I don't think I'm like over dramatizing this, but this is your life. And this is important enough that it should get your attention, your full attention. Because it's your life. This is it happening. And so as you're doing this, there's no thought about past oranges or thoughts about future oranges. There's just this one. And, sometimes then you'll notice the mind start to move into some other thing. And it's almost like there's sort of a, hey, that's kind of a counterfeit experience. As soon as I start thinking about something else, this one's gone. So just kind of use that as an opportunity to come on back to the present moment. Notice that tendency of the mind to wander. Guide it back to this.
They're seedless.
They're seedless, which is helpful. And every orange is really quite different.
Some of them have little baby pieces in them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mine had like a little baby orange inside.
Yeah. That's neat. I've had that too. And one of the things that I like from the perspective of somebody who's watching other people do this is everybody's kind of got a different approach, with how they peel it and how they kind of section it off and how they eat it. And, and to me, again, this is an example of what is beautiful and unique about each and every one of us. That we've all got this little different approach, So for me, it's like a privilege to get to see that. In the practice, we call it appreciative joy. You can see somebody else doing something and just derive great pleasure from it as if it was your own, because it is your own experience then, appreciative joy. So, just continue to enjoy your orange and return to the 5 basic senses: sight, sound. I find that when I eat mindfully, a lot of times I do it with my eyes closed. It just happens. So I'll see my food as I start, but then, and I like to look at it because sometimes it's beautiful. But then I find I close my eyes and then I'm just really experiencing. So maybe in some way it's kind of like the meditation with the eyes closed, but just really experiencing it. So again, kind of like the washing the hands example. Something when we, eat an item, eat a piece of food that we're sort of doing it in a hurry most times. Just because we're, life's busy and we're usually on to other things. But taking it as an opportunity to get ourselves into the here and now. And there's just a realness to that experience. There's a solidity to it, and there's a natural peacefulness to being here in the present moment.
Do you think that when we're little, we kind of have that, and then we lose it? Like I remember when I was a little kid, I just would go around, we were just allowed to go, and I'd meander through the woods on my way home from school. I'd never take the sidewalk, and I'd look for birds' nests, and and I'd get home, and my mother would say, "Where's your boot?" And I'm like, "Oh, I lost my boot along the way because I was, you know, it was back when you had the galoshes that went over the shoes.
Because you were so engrossed.
Go back out there and find that boot, and I'm like, and then I came home and I was like mortified because I couldn't find my boot because it got stuck in, you know, wet snow somewhere. But and then we lose that, and then we end up living on autopilot, which I did for many years teaching. And I'm just, you know, I mean, I tried to stop and enjoy moments during the day, but there was always this pressure.
Yeah.
And now I'm retired, and I'm actually able to go back and do like what I did when I was a little kid, except now I don't have my mom to yell at me.
Yeah, that's a great,
I found I'm retired too now, and it's like I'm doing things that I never got to do before because I was too busy working all the time.
Yeah.
Enjoying little things.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right that there's that point where, you know, we're kids and we're just sort of intuitively and very naturally kind of in our experiences, and then we kind of start getting told over and over, and it's not just from that, but, you know, it's like, hey, there's other things that are more important. You need to start focusing on, you know, school is important because if you get good grades, then you'll be able to get into a good college, and if you get into a good college, you'll be able to make money, and if you make money, you'll be able to get a good partner, and, you know, it's like everything. And so it pulls us away from the experience. And so we finally get all those things, and we don't enjoy those either. I mean, that was my experience when I, you know, had some amount of money and things like that. It was like, well, you know, if you can't be present in this moment, then when you get to the next moment that you're trying for, you're not going to be present in that one either.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you get to this point in life. I'm 62, and I'm like, whoa, you know, all of a sudden I realized that I don't have this endless life ahead of me. And when I was a little, you know, when you're a little kid, just getting through a school day, it takes forever just to get to recess because time is, but as you get older, I think I read somewhere that as your metabolism begins to slow down, your perception of time speeds up, something like that. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, it certainly is true because the days now, they just fly by.
Yeah.
And I'm like almost trying to slow them down, and I almost can't slow them down enough.
I've read that your perception of time as you get older or through your whole life, your perception of time is relative to how much time has already occurred in your life. So, you know, by the time you're 50, for example, time is moving much faster because you've had 50 years rather than a 2-year-old where, time. I remember summer vacation used to seem like it was a year long. You know, that's it. Just, I mean, I think I thought that for a while, that summer vacation is a year because it just seems so long.
Does anybody have grandchildren? Because I think mindfulness changes with that too. I mean, I think I was on automatic pilot raising our children. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now with the grandchildren, it's you stop and smell them and look at them and touch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you enjoy their moments more.
And you enjoy those moments so much more. In the things that they do and the things that they say, rather than being on automatic pilot with your own children and saying, okay, I got it.
Right. And I think you're onto something. The experience of, it's kind of what I call spontaneous mindfulness, and like picking up a baby is an example of that. It's like if you pick up a baby, I mean, there's just this feeling coming from within you, you know, and you're holding this baby and you're smelling the baby's hair, and, you know, it's just this very real experience, and it's just like love in the present moment. You're not thinking about past or future. It's just this, you know, it's just I'm holding a baby, and it's just that feeling of tremendous love and appreciation. But really what has happened there is that you spontaneously got mindful. All of a sudden, you're here. Past and future dropped away. You are with your experience of the 5 senses, and you are just really enjoying that. So yeah, I think grandkids, and that's a perfect example, or somebody comes over and you get to hold their baby, or
Yeah.
if you're playing with a puppy,
Yeah.
you know, it's...
Animals.
Yeah, it's
Birds.
just the spontaneous mindfulness. But we have these experiences, and it's like, yeah, we remember. It's like, yes, that's the real stuff.
It's
So,
almost like you're discovering things all over again.
yes.
That's what makes it neat, and why I actually like being older now. I don't think I've ever been happier than I am now at age 62, because I have so much more gratitude, and I'm just kind of learning to let go of some things that were dragging me down and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's easier now. When you're younger, you're striving. You know, we're in this culture where we're supposed to strive all the time, and if you're not busy, then, you know, the busier you are, the more you're living. But then you, like you said, it's empty. I don't know, somebody said success is ashes in the mouth. I can't remember who said that, but you find some of that's true. You achieve certain level of, and then it's just not what you expected.
Yeah.
Might have been Emerson.
I'll have to check that. I'm intrigued by that. But so again, just a really simple thing, and that's one of the beautiful things about mindfulness in general, is that it doesn't require you know, a trip to Hawaii or any really grand experience. It is the rediscovery, to use your word, rediscovery of, you know, what is true in the present moment. And when you start to come back to that, there's just a real profound beauty to it. And it's free to get in, you know, you're here. So you can enjoy lots of different experiences in the same way. But sadly, we are out of time. That went by so fast. But I hope you found this one helpful. I do have these wet wipes if anybody wants to clean up your hands. And we'll get the bowls out into the hallway. But what I want to do just before we go, though, I'm going to do the triple bell. So just one more moment before we leave. And I want to kind of I want to end where we began, with just this cultivation of these wonderful states of consciousness, which you'll find more and more are really important. And in fact, maybe they're all of what's important. So may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Just let yourself feel it as I say the words. May all beings be surrounded by love and kindness. May all beings be joyful and happy. May all beings be peaceful, free, and equanimous. And then to you, sharing this room and this time, these moments of your life with me, to whom I'm so grateful, may you all be truly, truly happy. Namaskar, everybody. We'll see you next week. And have a wonderful week. And just a reminder, again, the April 6th class, we are moving 1 week further out to April 13th. So, just so nobody forgets that.
No, that worked out perfect for me. So.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad.
I was worried. I thought, well, I'm going to have to miss one class, but.
Oh, well, wonderful.
That works out.
How did it feel tonight sitting on that cushion?
I'm good. I'm getting my knees starting to bend better, and.
Well, it looked like it, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was noticing last week you had it extended for most of the time, and
Yeah.
this week, yeah, that's great.
It's getting there.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Take care. We'll see you next week. Yeah, that's great.
I really liked tonight's mindfulness as far as being aware of stuff with the oranges and that.
Isn't that neat?
It reminded me of when I love walking after rain
Ah.
because I love the smell of the